I am so glad that you guys are here for another class with Pregnancy Aid Clinic. And as you can see, we have a return facilitator. We've got Valerie. She's amazing. Some of you, actually most of you, have already interacted with her in person back when in-person class was a thing. Um, and then she's also done a class a few weeks ago on adverse childhood experiences. It was like our top 3 attended and interacted class. And it's actually on our YouTube page. But enough from me. I want you guys to have as much time as possible with the amazing Miss Valerie. So I am going to hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Courtney. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm really happy to see you guys again. My name, as Courtney said, is Valerie Auber. I'm a volunteer educator at Pregnancy Aid Clinic, and I have my master's degree in Human Development and Family Studies, and I have certification called Certified Family Life Educator. And today I just wanted to talk about personality, understanding personality. I think it's kind of just a fun thing for us to talk about and think about getting to know ourselves a little bit better and getting to think about how other people are different from us. So I hope that you have fun with it with me. So personality, people are different. Everybody's not the same as you or me, and thank goodness, right? We all have different interests and behaviors, ways of being and ways of seeing the world, and that's a really good thing. And think about the people close to you, your husband or wife, your boyfriend or girlfriend, your good friends, your co-workers, even your own children have different personalities from your own. So we're going to be thinking about that today. It is kind of a natural assumption to assume that other people will react to things the same way that we do, but they won't necessarily. And so when other people are different from you, react to things differently or approach things differently, sometimes it might be really irritating. Sometimes it might drive you crazy, but they're not doing it on purpose to make you crazy. They're just being who they are, and you're just being who you are. So thinking about the diversity of personalities and the beauty of the diversity of personalities is what I'd like to do today, because the world is a richer place, goodness knows, because everyone is not exactly like me. So you can't expect other people to react to everything or approach everything the same way that you do. And if we learn to notice these different reactions from other people and their different ways of being, then we can adjust our expectations of them. And we can realize that what they're doing is not necessarily wrong, it's just different. And thinking about personality can also increase our understanding of ourselves. And that will help you when you're making decisions about what you want to do next with your life. And it also helps a lot to communicate your needs to other people and to think about what their needs are as well. And that helps build strong relationships, being aware of our own needs and others' needs and being able to communicate that to each other. So those are some of the things we're going to be thinking about. I am going to use the Myers-Briggs type indicator as just a tool to help us talk about personality. You may have heard of the Myers-Briggs tests before. You might have heard people say, oh, I'm an INFJ or I'm an ESTP. That they're talking about the Myers-Briggs type indicator. And so today that's what we're going to be talking about. It's a good tool just to have fun with and to base our discussion on. It's old. It has been around for a long time. It was developed by Isabel Briggs Myers and her mother, Catherine Briggs, in the 1940s and 1950s. They published their type indicator in 1962, and they based their personality types on theories that were developed by Carl Jung in the 1920s. So it's been around for a long time. There's been lots and lots of research based on the Myers-Briggs type indicator. A lot of research shows that it is reliable and valid, and it's good. And a lot of people really like the Myers-Briggs test. It is probably the most popular personality test. Sometimes even companies use it when they're making hiring decisions, or sometimes they use it when they're making human resources development decisions. So it's really popular. You may have seen it out there, and it is all over the internet if you're interested to go look. Some people don't like the Myers-Briggs type indicator because it does put a group of 16 different personality types. And so it puts people in a box. So sometimes you don't fit neatly into a box. And in reality, there are more than just 16 different types of people. So some people don't like it for that reason, because it tries to put you in a box. And there's just not enough boxes for all the different people. Another reason some people don't like the Myers-Briggs is it's not necessarily a good predictor. So especially in human resources decision at your job, it's not that good at predicting your success in various job situations. But like I said, we're using it for fun. We're using it for just a tool to help us talk about personality and think about different people and the way different people are. So I think it's a fun one to use. And so that's why I'm going to use it. The Myers-Briggs is a test that measures your preferences. It measures which personality types feel most of a comfortable fit for you. So the first preference pair they talk about is introvert or extrovert. And so it's thinking about how we direct and receive our energy. So, I mentioned that sometimes people will say, oh, I'm ISTP. So the I they're talking about there is introvert, I for introvert, or E for extrovert. And so that's the first letter in your type, and your type is going to end up with 4 letters on it. So you're first going to end up with either an I or an E. And this is your preference, what feels most comfortable to you, what feels like the best fit, what you prefer, your sort of natural tendencies and your own natural ways of being. So the introvert-extrovert preference pair talks about how we direct our energy and how we receive our energy. So if you prefer to focus on your inner world, on the thoughts in your head, on ideas, that makes you more of an introvert, so you would be an I for that. If you prefer to focus on things that are outside of you, other people and things that are sort of outside of you, that would be more of an extrovert thing. And that's what you focus on, so that's what's getting your attention. An extrovert likes their energy to go out, and they recharge by being with people. So they get their energy from being with people. And an introvert, their energy is directed more inwards, and they recharge by being alone. And being with people for an introvert is something that kind of drains their energy. So introvert, extrovert is about what gets your attention, where your energy goes, and what energizes you, how you re-energize after your energy is gone. Everyone can be an introvert at times or an extrovert at times. Everyone is capable of that. So we're just talking about which one feels more comfortable to you, which one feels more like, yeah, that's me, that's my comfortable fit. And also, introvert here is not necessarily about being shy. So don't confuse shy with introvert. It's not necessarily the same way. Another difference between introverts and extroverts is the way they talk about ideas An extrovert really likes to talk ideas out. They like to talk it through or think it through while they're talking. They like to fill the silence, and they also like to hear what other people have to say about a thing. And so as soon as a question is thrown out in a group, an extrovert will start talking already without thinking because they're thinking while talking. An introvert likes to take everything in and kind of mull it over. They don't mind when there's silence. They like the silence. Once they start talking, they have already thought it through. And so they think before they talk. So introverts would also rather be alone or with one or two people with whom they feel really comfortable. You know, in like a classroom situation where there's always the one or two people who talk up first and talk up most often, those are likely to be the extroverts because they're really comfortable in a group and because they're thinking it through while talking. So as soon as the question gets asked, they're ready to talk it out, and they think it out while they talk it out. But the introverts are more likely to listen to everything, and they're mulling it over, and then they'll decide what to say before they risk saying it, because to them that feels like a little bit of a risk. Here's a little story, a little example from my own family. My extended family recently had a family gathering that lasted for several days, and we all stayed in the same house together. And we're a loving family. We all get along really well. We like hanging out together, but I am an introvert. And by the second or third day of constantly being with everyone from the moment I woke up to, in fact, I slept in the same bed with my sister. So even throughout the night, we were together always. And there just came a point where I noticed myself feeling really exhausted and pretty irritable. And I just needed to go away, find a room where I could be alone, and so that I could recharge. So that's the introvert in me coming out. On the other hand, my brother is very extroverted, and he is the person who will always be the last one to leave the party. He will be the last one to leave a gathering because he gets his energy from the people. And so being with people energizes him, where being with people was taking my energy away. So my brother, the extrovert, will stay and enjoy the people until the very last minute, till everybody else is gone. Then he's the last person to leave. Myers-Briggs makes a point of saying that all types are equal. There's no better type. So it's not better that I'm an introvert. It's not better that my brother is an extrovert. It's just what we are. There's no better or best type. So let's think about whether you are an I or an E for an introvert or extrovert. These statements are from Myers-Briggs.org. And so see if these statements fit you, if they feel more comfortable to you, if they feel like a good fit for who you are. And if these feel good to you, then you are an E for extrovert. I am seen as outgoing or a people person. I feel comfortable in groups and I like working in them. I have a wide range of friends and I know lots of people. I sometimes jump too quickly into an activity and don't allow enough time to think it over. Before I start a project, I sometimes forget to stop and get clear on what I want to do and why. So if those statements feel like you, then you would give yourself an E for the first letter of your type. But if these statements fit you better, then you will give yourself an I for introvert. I am seen as reflective or reserved. I feel comfortable being alone, and I like things I can do on my own. I prefer to know just a few people well. I sometimes spend too much time reflecting and don't move into action quickly enough. I sometimes forget to check with the outside world to see if my ideas really fit the experience. Okay, so that helps you decide a little bit if you're an E for extrovert or an I for introvert. One problem with Myers-Briggs is that sometimes you're not exactly one or the other. Like I said, everyone's capable of being both at different times. So just think about which one feels more like you, which one is your preference, not for what you want to be, but for the way you really are. And sometimes you'll be very strongly, like I'm strongly me personally, but sometimes you'll see that it's a little bit harder to tell, and that's okay. So the next preference pair that Myers-Briggs talks about is sensing and intuition. And this is an S or an N. They use an N for intuition because an I was already used on introvert or introversion. So S and N is going to, either an S or an N is going to be your second letter in your type. So sensing and intuition talks about how you take in information, the ways you become aware of the people or ideas or happenings around you. So if you prefer to focus on the basic information that comes through your five senses, what you can see, what you can hear, what you can touch, and that's the way you take in new information, then you would get an S for sensing. Sensing because it comes through your five senses and it's just the straight what it is. Or if you get an N for intuition, it means that you prefer to think about the meaning of what you see or hear. You like to interpret what you've seen and heard. You like to think about patterns and possibilities that you see in the information that you see or hear or touch or whatever. The sensing people who have an S type for a sensing type, are very practical and factual. They like the straight facts. They like what's real. They like what's actual in the physical world. If I can see it, if I can hear it, I just pay attention to the reality of what I see and hear and touch and what I take in with my five senses. Sort of just the facts and what is real. That's sensing for an S. The N type for intuition, like thinking about possibilities and looking at the big picture. They like to interpret the information that comes in. They enjoy abstract thought. They enjoy trying to find the meaning behind things, thinking about what might be possible. So the difference between an S and an N. So, did you ever attend a party with somebody and then go afterwards and discuss it and you feel like, did we even go to the same event? So for example, maybe you were standing around in a group at a party and then later you're talking about that, and one person may say, I remember that Marcus and Brittany were standing close together the whole time, and Brittany was wearing a red dress and Marcus said that his business was doing really well. That person took in information at like a sensing type. So that person would get an S because they were talking about, and they had noticed, and they took in the information that they could see and hear, and just it was what it was. But the other person may say, yes, but did you notice how stiff Brittany was? Did you notice their facial expressions? I got the feeling that there's trouble somewhere. Maybe there's trouble in their relationship, or maybe with Marcus's business. I'm not sure, but I just had this overall impression that something bigger was going on. That person is talking with their N type, so they may be more of an intuition type. So you can see, you probably had that experience where you attend a function and then you talk about it afterwards and you're like, were you even at the same place I was? And that's the difference between an S or an N, just to sort of give you a feel. So let's see if these statements fit you comfortably and it makes you feel like this is your preference, then you're an S for sensing. I remember events as snapshots of what actually happened. I solve problems by working through facts until I understand the problem. I am pragmatic and look to the bottom line. I start with facts and then form a big picture. I trust experience first and trust words and symbols less. Sometimes I pay so much attention to facts, either present or past, that I miss new possibilities. Okay, so if that feels most comfortable for who you are, then you're an S. If these statements fit you and feel most comfortable for who you are, if you prefer this, then you're an N for intuition. I remember events by what I read between the lines about their meaning. I solve problems by leaping between different ideas and possibilities. I'm interested in doing things that are new and different. I like to see the big picture, then to find out the facts. I trust impressions, symbols, and metaphors more than what I actually experienced. Sometimes I think so much about new possibilities that I never look at how to make them a reality. So if those statements fit you well, then you're an N. So now if you're keeping track, you should have either an E or I for your first letter, and your second letter should be either an S or an N. The third preference pair that Myers-Briggs talks about is thinking and feeling. And before I even go on, thinking does not mean intelligence and feeling does not mean emotions. In this case, it's just the type words that Myers-Briggs use are thinking and feeling. And so the third letter in your Myers-Briggs type will be either a T or an F. Thinking and feeling is how you make decisions or come to conclusions about the information that you took in. So we just talked about taking in information in either a sensing or intuition way. And thinking and feeling then is how you make decisions or come to conclusions about what you took in. So if you prefer logic and consistency, then you're more a T for the thinking type. Or if you prefer thinking about the people and special circumstances, then you're more of an F for the feeling type. The thinking person is very logical. They want to get to the solution. The thinking people love to write a pro and con list. Me. They don't like to get all kinds of different opinions from other people when making a decision because they want to avoid tainting their logic. They like to have a basic rule to apply, and they don't want to deviate from that rule very much. They are likely to tell you the straight truth. They're not going to be maybe as tactful. And they think fairness is treating everybody equally because that's like a basic rule and everybody is treated by the same rule. So that is sort of a thinking kind of person. A feeling kind of a person will weigh personal options more. They will listen to lots of people opinions, and they will think about how people are going to be affected by their decisions. To them, the idea of what is fair is more like treating people according to what each different person needs. So they're really considering special circumstances. Instead of just considering a rule as a rule, they will consider more about the special circumstances that is going on for each individual decision. They will be more tactful when telling you a truth. They won't just tell you the straight truth. They're more likely to be a little bit more tactful. So I can give you an example. Both examples I'm going to give you, the T and the F, were me acting as a parent. So like I said, you're not always one or always the other. So there was one time when my oldest son was in 5th grade, and we lived at the time in a place that usually got one good snowfall a year. And it was great to go out that one time a year and play in the snow. And at this time, my son was in 5th grade and he was grounded. I can't remember what he did wrong, but he was in trouble. And he was grounded, and he happened to be grounded on the day when we ended up getting our one good snowfall. That was a snow day. It was good to go out and play in. And I didn't let him play with his friends out in the snow that day. The rule was he's grounded. Even though there was a special circumstance of snow, the rule is the rule. You're not playing with your friends. So I was making that decision with my thinking type self. Now, he did get to go out and play in the snow. He got to play with his own younger siblings, but he didn't get to go off and play with his friends that day. So that was me making a decision with my thinking type. Later, my daughter was grounded. I don't remember what she did wrong. But we had recently moved to a new town. And there was an event that was coming up. And even though she was grounded, I let her go to this thing because I thought that it was really important for her, we were new in a new town. I wanted her to start meeting people and making friends. And so I did consider the special circumstance of, even though she's grounded, we're in a new place and she needs to start making friends. And so I let her go to this event. So that was me making the parenting decision with my feeling type self. So you can see that sometimes the same person will make different decisions based on a T or based on an F, but try to think of what's usually you, what feels more comfortable to you, what's a better fit to you. So if these statements fit you the best, then you're a T for thinking. I enjoy technical and scientific fields where logic is important. I notice inconsistencies. I look for logical explanations or solutions to most everything. I make decisions with my head and want to be fair. I believe telling the truth is more important than being tactful. Sometimes I miss or don't value the people part of a situation. I can be seen as too task-oriented, uncaring, or indifferent. So if those feel like you, then you're a T for your third letter. If these statements feel like you, then you're an F for feeling type. I have a people or communications orientation. I'm concerned with harmony and nervous when it's missing. I look for what is important to others and express concern for others. I make decisions with my heart and want to be compassionate. I believe being tactful is more important than telling the cold truth. Sometimes I miss seeing or communicating the hard truth of situations. I am sometimes experienced by others as too idealistic, mushy, or indirect. Okay, so that's a T or an F. For your last preference pair, the last preference pair is a J or a P, judging and perceiving. And here, judging does not mean judgmental. Judging and perceiving deals with how you approach the world, how you live your life, the way others see you. So a J person for judging type is very structured and ordered. And a P for perceiving type is flexible and adaptable. So if you prefer to sort of get things decided right now, that's a J. If you prefer to stay open to new information that might come or to stay open to options, then you're more of a P. Judging people really like to organize. They love to make lists. They love to check things off that list. I think many of us J's have been known to write something on the list that we've already done just for the joy of checking it off. J, judging people love to make their plans. They have a plan, they have a to-do list. And even on a free day, they will plan to do nothing. Judging people like to work before play. And they will usually get things done before the deadline. And they want to finish things up and get to an end and get things settled and get on with it. And then a perceiving people, the P, type people, they're much more of a go with the flow kind of person. They're like to be spontaneous. They're good at being flexible. They're good at being adaptable to the world and to changes. A plan for a perceiving person, a plan looks more like having a bunch of options. They like to mix work and play, and they're very open to new experiences. And a free day to them is a time to have no plans. I am strongly a J, and one of the things my husband has learned with knowing me for 30 years is that I am not very good at being spontaneous, because I am not at all P. I'm a strong J. And so there are times if he asks me to, I don't know, make a big purchase or go somewhere, like go on a trip or something, if he wants me to make the decision about it right now when he first springs the idea on me, it will make me very uncomfortable. And my natural reaction will be just to say, no, I don't want to do that. I don't think we should do that, because he springs something on me. It just makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it. So he has learned over 30 years that he needs to sort of plant the seed. He needs to tell me something ahead of time and let it sit so that my brain can make its plans. And then I'm much more likely to agree and to say yes to something if he plants the seed early enough. So it's not right or wrong. It's just the way I am. And it's good to realize what another person is feeling. He realizes that I'm a J and that it makes me uncomfortable when he springs things on me. So he doesn't do it very often. And then it works out really well for us. So he's realizing it's good to know what the other person is feeling, so that then you can have much more harmony in your life. We have a lot more harmony when he gives me plenty of time to think about new things. So for you, let's see if you're a J or a P. If these statements fit you, then you're a J. I like to have things decided. I appear to be task-oriented. I like to make lists of things to do. I like to get my work done before playing. I plan work to avoid rushing just before a deadline. Sometimes I focus so much on the goal that I miss new information. If those statements fit you, you're a J, and that will be your fourth letter in your Myers-Briggs type. If these statements fit you, you're a P type for perceiving. I like to stay open to respond to whatever happens. I appear to be loose and casual. I like to keep plans to a minimum. I like to approach work as play or mix work and play. I work in bursts of energy. I am stimulated by an approaching deadline. Sometimes I stay open to new information so long I miss making decisions when they're needed. So that is a P. If you prefer these statements, if they feel like a better, more comfortable fit to you, to who you are, then you're a P for your fourth letter in your type. So now you have four letters. You have either an E or an I, you have an S or an N, you have a T or an F, and you have a J or a P. So you have four letters, and you can take these four different preference pairs, and with the four letters where each has two pairs, you can make 16 different personality types. These are the 16 different personality types of Myers-Briggs. And so this is where you get things like ISTJ or ENFP. So I am strongly an I for introvert. I am strongly a J for judging. My sensing and intuition, sometimes I'm an S, sometimes I have an N. It's a little bit hard for me to tell. And my thinking and feeling changes a little bit sometimes too. Sometimes I'm more a T, sometimes I'm more of an F. So remember that Myers-Briggs says that all the types are equal. There is no good or bad or better type. And other people are just different from you. They're not wrong. and their way of doing things can also be effective, and it can be good. Other people who are different from you are not trying to irritate you, and your way is not necessarily right, their way is not necessarily right. And especially notice that your children may have a different personality type from your own. So it's important, because a lot of times as a parent, we think that our way is right. And sometimes you may have to take a step back and think, they're just doing something differently, and it's because of their personality. You can also recognize people's types as gifts, as something, good that maybe they have and you don't have. So for example, when you need somebody, say if you're in a group or at work or something, and you need somebody to act quickly, go to somebody who is more spontaneous. When you need someone to lead the party games, go to someone who's an extrovert. When you need somebody to help you with a logic puzzle or something, go to somebody who makes decisions in the thinking way, with a T in their personality type. If you want a group to come to a final conclusion so that you can all move on, make sure the leader of that group is somebody who's more of a J and not so much a P. So you can recognize when things feel comfortable to you, when things feel uncomfortable to you, and you can start to recognize when things feel uncomfortable to other people because that's not their personality type. Like my husband not springing things on me too often. And so you can recognize what their preferences are. I used to watch Jane the Virgin, that TV show, and Jane was a person who loved making lists. And there was one time her boyfriend asked if she wanted to make a list together with him. And she thought that that was so romantic. And it was really his way of seeing her as she was and offering to join in her way of being. And it was like a really loving thing for him to have done. So remember that we are different. They're not doing it to irritate you if they're just being different. Think about the beauty of the different personalities. The world is a richer place because everyone is not just like me or you. And then you can also learn from other people. One time when my son was a teenager, I was really bothered that he didn't have an organized list for getting all his homework done, because I would have an organized list for getting my work done. And I'm like, when are you going to get this done? When are you going to get that done? Do you have a list? Do you have a plan? And he just kind of sat back and he said, it'll all get done. And because of his age, I thought, okay, I need to back off. He says it'll all get done. And you know what? It did all get done. With him, it always gets done. And I did have to sit and think about it. You know what? It does get done. But he does it differently than I would have. And that's not necessarily bad, because it works. It's just different. So I needed to stop hounding him for making plans and having a list. And then even since then, I have learned from that. There are times when I think, oh no, I have to make a long list or I have to make a plan. And then I can kick back and say to myself, wait a minute, it'll all get done. And so I now use that phrase that he taught me often when I need to just say, it'll all get done. So being different from someone is not necessarily wrong. It's just different. So if you're interested in learning more about these 16 personality types, there are a lot of places on the internet that now, that you have your 4 letters, there are a lot of places that will explain more deeply about each of the 16 personality types. We're not going to go into that today because that was not my purpose, but there's all kinds of places you can go if you just type in ISTJ or whatever you are. You can find some fun information about that. And if you still can't tell what your 4 letters are, Myers-Briggs.org, by the way, is another really good place to go look at the different types. It is the official place for Myers-Briggs. If you go to Myers-Briggs.org, they want you to pay for the test. So there are other places all over the internet where you can get free tests based on the Myers-Briggs type indicator. A couple of them that I found that are pretty good and they're free are 16personalities.com and humanmetrics.com. So if you want to go and find out what your 4 letters are, if you're not quite sure from having looked at it with me, that's fun. And then you can look up all kinds of more information about what the 16 types are. And then you can try to also, think about your children or your husband or your coworkers and start to understand why they are, how they're different from you, and why that's okay. All right, thanks anybody. If everybody wanted to put in your chat box, if you want to put your 4 letters just for fun for us, if you can tell, that would be fun. And otherwise, if anybody has any questions or comments, I can send it back to Courtney.
That was so awesome. Yes. I have been an ISFJ for a very long time. Every time I take it, it's the same. But when I'm listening to it or when I'm reading about it, it's like, I could be this one or I could be this one. So I really, really enjoyed that. People were in the chat box. First of all, Jane the Virgin is a great show. And people agreed with you on that one. There's a message says, it's so good to understand all these different personality types. Hopefully I won't get so easily annoyed with others. Lord help me. Isn't that the truth? Because people are different from you until you get frustrated, not thinking, oh, that's how their brain works. You're just like, why aren't they thinking like me? So yeah, it definitely is helpful. There's a message saying they thought I was an E, which is interesting. Nope, I am not an extrovert. Being around people exhausts me, and then I go into my little bubble and like sleep and read books until I get my energy back. We've got an INFP, Desiree. Anne is an ESNFP. So she alternates on the S and the N. Yeah, that is so cool. Thank y'all so much for the feedback. Thank you, Miss Valerie, as always, for being such a dope facilitator and getting information out there that our students are drinking up. So if there's no more comments, no more questions, that's it. Don't forget to like and subscribe our YouTube page. Love you guys. You are worthy. We will see you Monday at 1:30. Bye, y'all. Love you guys.